Hey guys, Ashley here for another episode at The Awakened State. And we are going to talk about manifesting good habits. Because I think this is a manifesting topic that needs to be talked about. When it comes to understanding manifestation, habits are at the forefront of understanding manifestation. So let's dive in. So here's what I want you to think about, okay? So habits are at the forefront of everything that you do, how you show up, the energy you bring to a situation, how you manifest as a concept as a whole, how you heal, and most importantly, every habit you have. Like your life is literally nothing more but a string of habits that you've established and compounded over time that has literally created your life. Like, isn't that so incredible to realize? Like, we have to realize that the present moment that we reside in right now today is nothing more but an accumulation point of our past thoughts, our past decisions, our past feelings, our past behaviors, our past habits, and most importantly, our past accumulated habits. All of that snowballed into this present moment right here, right now, with you here looking at me. This is the accumulation point of your past habits, past thoughts, past feelings, past everything that you see in the present moment is the accumulation point of what you've already manifested. And it came into form due to your habits. So this is why I'm so passionate about understanding habits. Okay, so if you don't know me, I'm Ashley from theawakenedstate.net. I teach on mindset, manifestation, Kundalini awakening, energy work, energy healing, and all things how to transcend patterns in our nervous system. This is one of my core specialties at theawakenedstate.net. So today we're going to continue on with our How to Manifest series that I just keep coming with ideas for. And today I wanted to talk about habits. So if you haven't been tuning into the manifestation series, we've covered all sorts of ways you can manifest. We have covered how to manifest them. 4 easy steps. What the heck is manifestation? Confidence, love, loving relationships, how to attract in a relationship. We've covered confidence and boosting your self-esteem. We've also covered abundance mindset, and we've covered career and establishing your dream career. Oh, and don't forget, we've also covered health, how to empower your healing journey. But let's just take a step back here and remember that none of that can manifest unless you're establishing a habit around that, because our habits are at the forefront of how we actually manifest, because it's those past thoughts, those past feelings, those past behaviors, those past compounded habits, those compounded ways of what is a habit? Well, a habit is formed from your actions. What is an action? An action is formed from your behaviors. How is the behavior formed? The behavior is formed from the feeling. The feeling is formed from the thought. The thought is formed from energy. We experience this accumulation point that snowballs into our life, and that becomes the way we have results. So when it comes to understanding manifestation as a whole, we have to recognize that it's as simple as understanding habits. I always found this concept so mind-blowing. So it's actually something I learned a lot in The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. An amazing book, absolutely amazing book on how to understand the compound effect. The compound effect is literally manifestation. It is how you can properly understand how the law of attraction actually works. It's through the compound effect. So one of the things I really learned to do, and I talk a ton about this in the Mind Body Revolution series, and if you want to learn more about the Mind Body Revolution series, I'll leave a link down below. But basically, the compound effect works through understanding our decisions. Our decisions influence our behaviors. Our behaviors influence our actions. Our actions over time compound and create our results. what I began to understand is if I could take the compound effect and apply it to the law of attraction, I had a totally different formula for success, because we are not just working with surface level like thoughts and surface level concepts that are, you know, almost like just the conscious mind alone. But what I began to understand is we can actually use it to work with the subconscious mind through the energetic work. And so when it comes to understanding habits, that compound effect is always occurring, and it's working for you or it's working against you. And so one of the reasons why I thought this was an amazing topic to cover is because a lot of us don't consider that at the forefront of manifesting is establishing good habits in our nervous system and learning how to change out those bad habits and replace them with new habits that are more, what's the right word I'm trying to say here? It's more aligned. We're more emotionally empowered in our nervous system, where we're incredibly more fulfilled, and it's more healthy, it's more sustainable to our personal well-being. And as a result, we start to release those toxic patterns that are in our nervous system. We start to release what isn't serving us. We start to release, you know, the soul-sucking job, or the really bad boyfriend, or the toxic relationship dynamic. And instead, we start to create healthier dynamics in our nervous system, which allows us to systematically, habitually change ourselves from the inside out. And so what I've really learned, and this is what I'm incredibly passionate on teaching on, is habits create that ability. So one of your top tips for manifesting good habits is to first evaluate what are the habits that are no longer serving you. So when we think about this, we can think material or we can think immaterial. So I'll give you some examples. So one of the best habits that I've been working on changing, and this has been incredibly empowering, is the habit of doubt and overthinking. The habit of doubt and overthinking. So when we go to change a habit, we have to first identify what isn't working. What is the habit that is creating the sabotage, basically? So we have to look at what are the top 3 habits that are completely not serving me. Maybe they're creating a toxic dynamic. Maybe they're making me have bad decisions or misaligned decisions. Or maybe it's just not fully serving my personal well-being, you know, such as beating yourself up or criticizing yourself or negative self-talk. These are all things that are habits. They are literally habits, which is why you can change them. Because you always hold the power to change your habits by changing your decisions. And by changing your decisions, you're changing your energy. So everything connects back to the energetics. So what I want you to do is, your first tip for establishing good habits is to identify what are 3 habits that are drastically not serving you, that you desire to shift and change. And now, if you've been following along with the Mind Body Revolution series, this might sound a little bit familiar because it's very much the same thing. So in the Mind Body Revolution series, we talk about how you can systematically change a habit by following the mind-body connection. And so you can learn all about that training below. But to stay on point, so when we think about 3 bad habits that are fully not supporting us, so this could be doubt, overthinking, emotional eating, smoking, alcohol, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Just pick whatever fits best in your scenario. And now what I want you to do with those bad habits is I want you to look at what is triggering those bad habits. So we've established doubt and overthinking, and what was the other one? Negative self-talk and emotional eating, for example. They're just random scenarios. So emotional eating, overthinking and doubt, and I forgot the last one. What was it? Doesn't matter. Okay. Anyway, when we think about changing a habit, we have to go into the root of what are the triggers that are connecting to the bad habit? So step 2 is to evaluate what are the triggers that are connecting to that habit and how can I change them? So start to look at what are some simple actions you can take to start eliminating those triggers that are sustaining the habit. So if I'm in doubt and overthinking, then my practice would actually mean that my actions that I need to take are to focus more on trusting myself, knowing what is good for me essentially, and to stop overthinking so much. And so one of the ways that's really easy to stop overthinking is to drop more into the body with more movement practice, more embodiment practice, and getting out of the head and getting more like out of that space where you feel disconnected from reality, so to speak. So more present awareness. So that's my good habit, which leads us to step 3, which is create good habits to change out the bad habits. And so, for example, the negative self-talk, one of the things you can do is you could give yourself encouragement. Now, when we think about this as a habit, you're going to have to practice it. So step 3 is you want to establish those good habits. And so you pick 3 habits that do not serve you, and then you pick three habits that do serve you, and you're going to change them out by practicing the new habit. And when we do this, we're taking the triggers that we felt, and then we're starting to change that habit with a healthier behavior. This is literally how I taught my love how to quit smoking. What we ended up doing is we ended up focusing on a healthier behavior. And it really helped because what I found is it wasn't necessarily the smoking, it was the mouth fixation. And so once we understood the mouth fixation, we changed it out to vaping, and then we changed it out to tea, and then we changed it out to something else. And then what ended up occurring is he found that, for one, he knew it was a toxic behavior and he didn't need to keep supporting that. And 2, he found out that it was just mouth fixation. So once he figured out what he was actually craving, then it became easier and easier and easier to just quit. But I find that when we realize a bad habit is rooted in there's a reason why we want to stay in it. And so we have to realize that in order to change a bad habit to a good habit, you have to find something to replace it. Otherwise, you will just have a void trying to be filled. And this is like the root of manifestation. It's the law of vacuum. So if the law of vacuum is taking place, now if you're not familiar with the law of vacuum states that nature abhors a vacuum. What is empty must be replenished and refilled by law. When we look at the law of vacuum, the law of vacuum states that we must create space to receive in the new. So if you have a bad habit and you want a new habit, then what you have to do is you have to learn how to replace the habit, because energy is not created nor destroyed. It is only redirected and replaced. So because of that thought alone, if you have a bad habit of smoking, the easiest way to change it is to focus on a healthier behavior. Now, is that easier said than done when it's an addiction? When it's an addiction, you have to be practicing with repetition and you have to be systematically shifting that habit. Otherwise, you will just divert back to the old paradigm, which is why people get addicted. And that's why it's hard to end an addiction, because there isn't a way to fill in the void by changing the habit. So when we look at it in terms of something more simple, like overthinking, for example, this is one that I've actually been working on personally, and it's incredible. So what I've been doing is I've been having a habit of overthinking. And so I've recognized that that's a third eye thing going on. So I've been like, well, what is the medicine of a third eye chakra? Well, third eye is all about inner knowing. It's about trusting. It's about moving away from fear and choosing soul. And I'm like, okay, so that's what I need to practice. So I need to practice more of less overthinking, more trusting myself, more focusing on what is my intuition saying? What is my inner guidance saying about the situation? What is my first response in the situation? So I've identified this is what occurs. So I have the overthinking happen. Then in the trigger, I notice it's always because I'm like analyzing the situation, I'm overthinking things, I'm really caught up in my head, and I'm not going outside or enjoying something. And what I've noticed is it happens a lot when I'm super in my head. So the more I practice like things that encourage movement, that get me out of my head, that get me out of the over analytical thinking, then I'm starting to practice a healthier behavior, not just trusting myself more and, knowing and trusting and building my intuition muscle. I'm also practicing a physical action where I'm making sure I'm more embodied and present in my body. So you can start to see how we can easily start to shift out of that. So the moment I go back to overthinking, I have to go right back to my practice of, okay, step into movement, step into more embodiment, step into more physical awareness. And that immediately just kicks into the gear of changing that habit. So you can start to see how you can use this to your personal advantage when it comes to any habit in your nervous system. Now, the reason why I'm teaching it like this is you have to break it down so it's stupid simple. Because when you're overly fixating on the bad habit, when you're making it like bad in your mind, you're giving it so much meaning, so much power over you, you can't see the simplicity of how to change it. And I think that's where so many of us get lost and really like caught up in the weeds, basically. And our vision becomes so clouded, we can't see correctly. And so one of the hugest lessons that I've really learned is we have to get our heads out of the sand about it. We have to bring in that awareness piece. And that awareness piece is all it takes to truly create a catalysm, like a complete perspective shift in our mind. It's that awareness piece that can drastically shift your life. All right, so that is my 3 tips today on how to manifest a good habit. And so I invite you to practice this if this is something that you're really interested in. I also invite you to check out the book, The Compound Effect. It is incredible for learning about habits and habit awareness. Like, I've just been so mind blown how much I've learned from that book alone. But what I really want to say here is, let's summarize this. So if you want to manifest better habits in your life, I invite you to don't fixate on choosing like a bunch of habits all at the same time. Only choose a couple, like up to 3. I mean, if you're really rusty and new at this, I would only pick 1. So I would do 1 to 3 habits, and then I would look at the trigger. What is creating the habit to begin with? Because that will help show you the awareness of what needs to shift and change. Then start to think about what are healthier behaviors you can have to literally change that habit and move it away from jumping back into the void space of basically not refilling it with a healthier behavior. So those are your tips, and I invite you to try it out and see how it goes. I would love to hear your own thoughts about this in the comments. Please like this video if you deeply enjoyed this material, and subscribe for our weekly videos. And I think next week we're going to talk about fitness, and then we're going to talk about money. And I think that might conclude our manifestation series. We'll see. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. All right. I'll see you guys next week.